Champions Classic coming down to it between Duke and Kentucky. Down to the Dukies, putting it in the hands of Cooper Flagg for a second straight possession, a second consecutive turnover. Another stat stuffer night for Flagg, but the Dukies' effort comes up short to number 19 Kentucky. A brand name win under a new head coach, and definitely some juice moving forward for the Wildcats. Flagg 26-12-2 in this game, but late in it, a couple costly errors for the young star. Let's assess CBS senior college hoops writer Matt Norlander joining us for more. Matt, Tuesday gave us our third look at Cooper Flagg, or in other terms, like 10% of his collegiate career. Highest leverage spot to date, and the Dukies can't pull it out. Turnovers in each of those last two possessions. What did you see late, and what does this loss mean?
The loss doesn't mean a lot, frankly, because Duke's going to have a lot of opportunities. I'm actually going to see Duke in person next week when they go play at Arizona, an environment that could be even more harsh than the one that they played in on Tuesday night in Atlanta, albeit it was Catlanta because Kentucky fans showed up big there. So the loss, I don't think, means a ton. Now, did Duke give the game away? In many ways, I think it did. What did I see from Cooper Flagg? I saw a very, very good game that unfortunately got spoiled in the final couple of possessions because Flagg was tasked with basically going out and securing the win. He had two key turnovers late, although credit to Otega Oweh, who got the first turnover, and then Oweh, who gets the offensive rebound after Lamont Butler misses his second foul shot. For Oweh to get that and basically clinch the win was big there. So Flagg goes 26 points, 12 rebounds in 32 minutes, 9 of 19 from the field. He had a lot of really, really good moments, and, you know, think about the spot he's in. First, like, this is the third game of his career. This is the first meaningful game. This is the game on the big stage. You've got pretty much every NBA front office having a representative there to scout this game and get eyes on Flagg and all the talent that was on display here. The Champions Classic is always the unofficial start of the college basketball season for most of the country, and Cooper Flagg has been as buzzed about and as hyped about as any freshman to come into college since Anthony Davis, in my opinion. So overall, he comported himself well until the final two possessions when, as a 17-year-old, and he's going to be 17 for about another 7 weeks or so, John Shire tasked him to go out and try and get that win. He couldn't get it done. And credit to Kentucky, because both these teams are deep. They're both 10 deep. And Kentucky and Mark Pope, his ability to sub out fresh bodies consistently there, they were up for the task. They really fought back. It was really impressive. Another, we can take it a bunch of different ways here, Joe. But the fact that Duke also didn't shoot well from three-point range was another contributing factor. It wasn't just Flagg's turnovers. Those were the big things that are going to stick out there. But on the whole, I give him a B+, A- performance. I thought he did really well against a really good team.
Yeah, it was a slow burn in those final 10 minutes, just amplified in those final two possessions. Flagg, in the process, does become the first Duke player in the history of that program with 50+ points, 25+ rebounds, and 10+ assists in his first 3 games as a Dukie. They move forward. They learn from it. But as you said here, this is a Kentucky team that erased a 9-point halftime deficit, game 3 of a new era for Kentucky basketball altogether. Full-throated the support, as you said, there in Atlanta. This has to provide some real juice moving forward for this program. What did this win mean? Maybe more on that side.
No doubt about it. We talked about, I don't think the loss means a lot for Duke. The win means a ton for Kentucky. Post-Calipari era, the Mark Pope hire, and how much enthusiasm and life that came to this fan base, Big Blue Nation, getting Mark Pope. And here in your first big game, you come from behind, you win with just pure determination and getting a little bit from everyone. You know, even Andrew Carr stepping up and having a couple of good possessions on defense, facing Flagg down the stretch there. Kobe Brea, obviously, he had some moments. Lamont Butler, you had Kirk Kriisa hitting a big 3 at one point. The way the game played out and how Kentucky, because of its willingness and want to adjust, because I actually thought Kentucky, Joe, I thought going into this thing, if Kentucky was going to have its way, it would make this a race to 85. But credit to the Wildcats to get this win, hold Duke to 72, and get just a bunch of different contributions from a bunch of different players there. It was just so impressive. Oweh finishes with 15 points. I got to give him shine here, not just because of the final 2 plays he had, but to me, in a variety of ways, he might have been the most valuable player on the floor. That being said, Carr finished with 17. Amari Williams had 10, and he was key in the first half there. Brea, Garrison, they both had 8, and Kriisa had the big 3 there. So it was an impressive performance all around. I tell you what, big picture, when I step out and look at this game, you know, we talked to, Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel, Duke's got the freshman there. the way the game was played, it looked like a bunch of grown men out there, because it was. You've got, especially on the Kentucky end, where you've got a bunch of guys that are 21, 22, 23, 24 years old. That did not look like a team that had just gotten to know each other and learned to play with each other over the past couple of months. Really impressive win, morale-boosting win for a Kentucky team that is bravely entering a new post-John Calipari era. And the team I saw and the way they played, those human beings in that uniform did not look like the Calipari teams of the past 5 or 6 years. Really good stuff on Mark Rope's crew.
Yeah, high-level stuff's on both sides and can only get better from here, or that they hope. In the early tip, Matt, Bill Self passing Flagg Allen, Hunter Dickinson remaining dominant. We've seen in recent seasons the weight of having that one next to your name, and different schools just passing that thing around. I know we're agonizingly early, but do you see the hallmarks early on of a team fit for that sort of responsibility?
I think it's potentially there. So, yeah, Kansas is the preseason #1 2 years in a row. They did it last season. Now, they had a bunch of injury issues, and frankly, they had one of their worst seasons ever under Bill Self because of those injury issues. They didn't have depth. I've got a column up right now at CBSSports.com or on your CBS Sports app. I wrote about Dickinson. The fact of the matter is that game, first of all, that game versus Kentucky Duke, the first game had basically no juice because the Kentucky and Duke fans were not in the arena, and it seemed to impact the play in the first 20 minutes. So what happened here was Kansas didn't really have a lot happening around Dickinson, who effectively carried the team, got the 50th double-double of his career, came and stepped up big. Now, I think that his supporting cast will eventually obviously step up. To your question, Joe, do I think that Kansas has the stuff of a #1 team? I think that's the case. Right now, it got the preseason #1 ranking. It hasn't lost yet. It has a home win over North Carolina, and it has a win over Michigan State. Neither of those were aesthetically pleasing wins, but you get the W's however you can get them. And I think because of Dickinson's ability on offense, and because he showed in this game against a good opponent when everything else was failing around him, he stepped up in a major way to know that he can be a focal point on offense as a stretch big. Defensively, he's never going to be a plus guy. That's just never going to happen. But they're going to need him to be that guy more often than not. I thought that was a very encouraging sign for a Kansas team that is obviously going to vie to try and get to a Final Four. Congrats to Bill Self on being the all-time winningest coach at that school, one of the best ever. And then real quick, Joe, on Michigan State, I'll touch on them real quick here. We wait and see on that. The program in general, it hasn't been sputtering, but it has not been operating at that super high level in recent seasons. They've got enough talent on that team to compete for a Big Ten title. It might take a little bit of time. We got to see, like, Jaden Akins didn't play well whatsoever. A lot of that is because of Kansas, but Michigan State, I think they're going to need a few more weeks to really understand their identity. I look forward to seeing them when I go to Maui. They'll be in the Maui Invitational next week. Further thoughts always from the great Matt Norlander on CBSSports.com. None better, Matt. We appreciate you. All right, let's make it official. 591. Bill Self, naming rights are in order as he passes the man who has the field house. Self, one past Flagg Allen.